Let me change my name. Oh, it has my school name on it.
Right. Thank you so much because thank you so much. I would have had this chat and would not have recorded it. Okay, so while Marcia Weekes is getting herself together, welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Those of you who know me, I have a special guest this morning or this afternoon when the video will be published, and her name is Marcia Weekes, and she is a person that wears many hats, right? Whose shoes I can't walk in. So let me just look at, I saw her a little introduction of Marcia Weekes, Weekes, not Meeks, but Weekes on Facebook. And Marcia Weekes, Jamaican by birth. I did not know that you were Jamaican by birth, Marcia. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, never knew that you were a Jamaican by birth. Is the founder and artistic director of Praise Academy of Dance Barbados, a non-profit entity now in its 17th year, and of Step by Step Production in its 11th year. She is a writer, director, and producer, and also the founder of Walk Holy, and that is Kadooment. Is it Kadooment or band?
Yeah, Kadooment is a cultural expression here in Barbados.
Okay.
Kind of like it's a carnival.
Okay.
But with a Barbadian twist to it.
Absolutely. Which she started 18 years ago. So you are really a veteran in this thing. She also began the Barbadian chapter of Praise Academy of Dance Barbados, a dance school with over 200 students, and subsequently she I can't know, I don't see what's going on there. But welcome to you, Marcia. And I would like you to tell us more about yourself and your Jamaican background, because I have largely a Jamaican audience, as you know. So let us hear your Jamaican connection and why Barbados.
Oh, wow. Well, Andrew, let me just thank you so much for this opportunity to be interviewed on your podcast. Yes. I've seen a couple of them, and I see that people are really tuned in, especially the political side of things.
Yes.
And you're doing a great job, sir. Thank you so much.
And thanks to you also. Yeah. I was introduced to you on a podcast that you were on, and that was on Sunday. I came across this podcast. I think I came across the podcast from St. Vincent. What's his name again? But you were on that podcast.
St. Vincent Times.
Absolutely. Yes. And he's doing a fantastic job too. So I saw the interview, and then I heard when you said Mia Mottley, and I've published a number of videos on her, which are, Barbadians, many of them are not particularly impressed with. A few are, and a few have sent me congratulatory messages about publishing, a contrarian view of Mia Mottley, because, she is a mega star in the world, and many people see her as a hero, a heroine. Someone who is interested in Black liberation and in Black struggles and the exploitation of the Black race, and people, not only the Black race, but she represents the voice of the South, what we call the global South. Mm-hmm. But let's begin with you, Marcia Weekes. Is there something you want to tell us about yourself, and what really brought you into the political and the world of activism? Because you are, one of the things I didn't mention is that you're also an activist. What brought you into that world? What gave you the inspiration to want to be an activist, a political and social activist?
Well, let me first say that your first question to me was, tell you more about me and being Jamaican and why Barbados. So let me start there.
Yes. Go ahead.
I love to let people know that I was born, wait for it, in Spanish Town.
Yes.
Spanish Town Central Village, Big Lane.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. That's very nice.
And it's important to know that, because that kind of fight, Andrew, that I naturally have.
Yes.
I carry on behalf of different issues,
Yes.
I tell people I get it right there in Big Lane, Central Village, where you basically had to be fighting in order to live, right?
Absolutely. And that is, in essence, what the Jamaican culture is about. It's about
Yes,
struggles, right? And
yes.
it has not stopped. I don't think it will ever stop. The same thing we see in Haiti. And so we have that sort of fighting culture. I think that slowly but surely we are sort of losing it. Maybe because of the entertainment which has taken over and the
Hmm.
fact that we're distracted with our phones and with our social media platforms. What do you think? Do you think Jamaican culture is still uniquely Jamaican, or do you think it has been watered down?
Definitely watered down. I think we are trying to be all things to everybody, and
Yes.
we are about chasing the money now and the
Yes.
clout and the likes on social media. That
Hmm.
we are about, we are very excited when people accept us and they love our culture, and they're,
Correct.
and forgetting our roots, and how we had to literally fight to
Yes.
be educated, fight to come out of poverty, fight to come out of struggle. And so I actually take a lot of that with me in my activism.
Yes.
That I believe it's what propels me. Being born in Jamaica, I think I developed just a lack of appetite for injustice.
Hmm.
So anything, Andrew, that seems unjust,
Yes.
I just can't sit back
Right.
and say nothing. And
Hmm.
so I believe that those were the genesis years of this activism,
Hmm.
right there in Big Lane, St. Philip. St. Philip is Barbados.
Yes.
Big
Yes.
Lane,
In Spanish
Big
Town.
Lane, Big Lane, Central Village, Spanish Town,
Yes,
where
absolutely.
every day was a fight and everything was a fight.
How did
And yeah.
Yes, and how did those struggles and that sort of innate fighting spirit, how did that conflict with a Barbadian culture that seems to be a bit more progressive culture? It is not the culture that has had the struggles that, of course, they have had their unique struggles, but not the same struggles that Jamaicans probably go through having, well, once a much more progressive economy and culture and a much more what we call formally educated society. How did that conflict? Did you find that Barbadians were sort of, what is she upset about? Why is she so feisty and, and so brave? What is she
Uh,
talking about?
Andrew, I'm telling you, you're asking some fantastic questions, I
Yes,
must say.
yes,
Well, I think in the beginning, that people, they didn't understand what
yes.
was happening. I think the first time that I went on the street to protest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start there. I was by myself.
Yes.
Andrew, I went on a one-man protest in Barbados.
Wow.
And yes, and I went because I don't know if you heard of this, but there was what they called it was a survey.
Yes.
However, it was presented to the students in the schools
Mm-hmm.
as a test, as a computer test.
Yes.
So here it is that children went to school on a particular day
Mm-hmm.
all across the country, various schools. These are 11-year-olds,
Mm-hmm.
first formers. They're told that they have a computer tests
Mm-hmm.
that they have to sit, and this is for about 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And your parents, I'm sure, wondering as a child, 2.5 hours exam. Okay.
Right.
They would have just finished common entrance. And so that's, those are shorter exams.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the children went, and it wasn't until, and they sat through it. In some instances, they noticed that there were people in their schools that didn't look like their teachers
Mm-hmm.
that were, helping to conduct this survey or this test.
Mm-hmm.
And but the children sat through it, and some of them, when they got tired, they told that they had to finish this test.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one child, thank you, thank goodness for that one child who got out of it and went to their parent and told the parent what exactly happened in that exam room.
Yes. And what happened?
And what happened was that there were quite a number of questions, Andrew, asking the children very intrusive, requiring intrusive answers.
Yes.
It was asking them, do they, how many times they have sex?
Wow.
Okay.
And how old were these students? How old
11 years old.
Wow.
What gender they prefer?
Wow.
Yes, where their parents work, what kind of jobs they did.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
I mean, and it was for a lot of parents, it was very, very troubling.
It was traumatic, and it traumatized the students, I'm sure.
Yes, and also put thoughts in children's heads. Now, I must say, I tell you this: they had over 180 something questions. Now, Andrew,
when you think about it, Marcia, even as adults, right? Even as adults, if you should ask me, and a lot of times people ask me private things about myself, and I said, why do you want to know that? I mean, I don't know you, and that's the whole thing. So if as an adult I can be traumatized and be offended by some questions I'm getting from another adult, can you imagine children who are not even at the age of consent, of having sex and other things? Can you imagine the trauma that they underwent with those sorts of questions?
Yes, a very, very traumatic for some of the children.
Yeah.
And the parents, rightfully so, got very upset because they are producing a circular that was sent to them.
Yes.
To say that the children had a computer test.
Yes.
And when it turned out to be a survey.
Correct.
And to this day, they're not able to tell the parents, what are you doing with the answers to those survey, to the survey?
Yeah.
What is going to happen with all of that data? 180 something questions, Andrew. And even for us adults, if somebody gives you a question, a survey to do, and it's probably more than 7 or 10 questions, you get fed up and don't even want to
answer.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely.
However, but because they were children, they were forced to sit to do it, and then telling them it's a test. Okay, they didn't
Did they give them treats like during the pandemic, and to get the jab you were given ice cream, and did they give them treats to attract them, to sort of encourage them?
No. For this computer test or survey,
yes,
nothing was done. But what we to entice them, just the fact that you tell the children it's a test, Andrew.
Yes.
They are in a school setting, and so I thought that was unjust.
It was.
I thought that the parents were not consulted on it. The parental right was being taken away. The rights of the children, and I just went on the street by myself. And did this one man.
So you're telling me that that the Barbadian parents did not choose to revolt or rebel, protest against that sort of behavior demonstrated by the school system?
Well, yeah, I think that a lot of them, while they would have wanted to do that, for a lot of people who live outside of Barbados, they do not understand the environment in which we live. And it's very important. We are in the Mia Mottley administration.
Yes.
And in the Mia Mottley administration, as you would know, and some of your viewers would know, Miss Mottley won all 30 seats.
She won all. Every time I read that, up to yesterday, I read it again because I'm reading it so many times. I'm wondering, am I really understanding this? Is it true, or am I distilling some sort of myth and lies about Mia Mottley, that in her two elections, she swept all 30 seats? And I want you, members of the audience, to understand that. What if in Jamaica, the one politician, the PNP or the GLP, should win all the seats in Jamaican parliament? What sort of democracy would that be? Go ahead, Miss.
Yes, it's great to speak with somebody who, about this situation, who is very aware, and I must commend you on that, because a lot of people outside of Barbados, they have drunk the Kool-Aid, and they have drunk all of that propaganda, that machinery is spewing out. But so now, in Barbados, there is a lot of fear.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat that. In Barbados, there's a lot of fear.
Yes.
And the fear is not of, in some countries, if you speak out, you get shot, or, it's not that.
Yes.
It's marginalization. It's victimization. We're talking about losing your job. So while parents were upset about it, they would talk quietly. Some would type on Facebook where they're hidden, but to come out, say, listen, my child was affected, and my child was, was impacted negatively by this. A lot of them don't, they didn't want to show their face, their identity.
Correct.
Because in the Motley's government, I am telling you, Andrew, you are victimized. You lose your job. You lose grants. You lose your pick. You lose anything that you value, even your children. Okay, even your children.
Well, one would have to understand that, Miss Weekes, if when you look at the fact that a woman could have convinced, according to the polls, all or most, I would say, Barbadians to vote for her, to have swept 30 seats in both elections. Something is supernatural about that woman, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, pretty supernatural. Well, I mean, let's not even say woman, because I mean, anybody
we know all of those things there. Yeah.
anybody could claim to do that.
Yeah.
You see, what's going on in Barbados right now is that the opposition,
not to break you, but I don't think when we say everybody can claim, I think even though it is not the best of agendas, but it takes a certain type of person to do that. I don't think anybody can do that. I think it takes a certain type of leader. Whatever she has, we might not agree with how she's doing it. We might not agree with her, and we might agree with her ethos. But at the end of the day, without having some sort of, whether it's charismatic or whether it's just being able to force somebody to do something, I think she has something that very few people has in the Caribbean and perhaps in the world.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that we have to note about the Barbadian, what's happening right now in terms of our politics, and even, the 2018 election, 2022 election as well. We've had the lowest voter turnout in the history of Barbados, and you've read that as well. And we had a situation where, people lost faith in the other party, the other major
Democratic
party,
Labour Party,
Democratic Labour Party, and the other party, Mottley's party, they took great advantage of that, and through various means, propaganda, etc. They were able to have that clean sweep. But the truth is that a lot of people did not vote.
Yes.
A lot of people did not vote, as you could.
And COVID was a factor too.
And COVID was a factor. And so, and if you, I'm sure you know this, that quite a number of those in the electorate here in Barbados did not get a chance to vote because Miss Mottley,
I read about that
under the Mottley government, did not allow. And this is what those of you who are listening and you think that Barbados is so democratic and the leader is so amazing. Think about this, people. Andrew, that we had thousands of Barbadians who were not allowed to vote because the Mottley government decided that if you contracted COVID, if you were tested positive for COVID, your right to vote was taken from you.
Wow.
Let that sink in. That's a fact. And that characterizes, Andrew, the type of leadership that is in Barbados, the type of leadership. I want that to sink in. Trinidad had their election during COVID.
Jamaica too.
And did they do that?
No, well, as far as I know, no.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
We've researched it. All of these countries, even internationally, outside of the region, they made the necessary arrangements, Mr. Tucker.
I think that bespeaks, although Marcia, to the people, the type of people who Barbadians are, passive people, because had they not been, I don't think they could have I don't think Jamaicans, they tolerate a lot of things, but I don't think they would have tolerated that. They would have revolted against any government who decided that they were not going to allow them to vote, and people would protest and carry on social media. Why is that Barbadians sat down and allowed that to happen?
Well, you see, it's you said something there about Barbadians being passive, and I will tell you this, Mr. Tucker, that in my 26 years of being here, I've realized that is a lie that was told to Barbadians.
Okay.
And they have believed it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I do not believe that
they're passive.
Naturally. I do not believe that naturally Barbadians are passive. It is like you have children and you tell them something about themselves, right? And so they've been socialized.
Yes, I thought you
that they are passive. So I really want to address that, because one of the major rebellions even in the region
was from Barbados.
From Barbados, the Boston Slave Rebellion was one. Actually, in terms of, you had other rebellions, but major, the first major rebellion was right here in Barbados. With Barbadian enslaved people. So I do not believe that. I don't buy it, and I don't see that. I see that once Barbadians become truly educated about the issue and they understand it, then they rise up. It might be that is a problem.
That's a problem, Marcia, that before, during slavery, we were not officially a part, most of us, a few of us we were not mostly a part of the education system, which has indoctrinated us, which has, conditioned us into behaving a certain way. So I'm certain that, let us say, a Jamaican going to Barbados, Jamaica is not known to be as educated as the Barbadian society. So if we are protesting, they would see us as somebody who is there to jolt and to create disorder and chaos within that society. So they see protest as something that is anti the system, and they don't want to be viewed as such, because they see themselves as a part of a system that is refined, you're educated, and you're supposed to have that courtly behavior. You cannot resist the royal family because you're British, right? Because that is a part of the royal of British culture, the royal family. And Barbadians probably think themselves as little England, right? So they have to behave and conduct themselves a certain way. If you move outside of that realm, it means therefore that you are, what should I say, a rebel, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot that you've said there that I totally agree with. And it kind of underscored the point I'm making, that we in Barbados became socialized, whether it is through education.
Yes.
Right? Colonial education, and they brainwashed us here in Barbados to say that we are passive. When you think of the 1937 riots, when all of the Caribbean, there were riots throughout in the 30s, remember? All throughout the region, and there was a riot in Barbados as well.
Yes,
dealing with labor laws and working conditions, and out of that, I keep reminding Barbadians that we've received so many great things happen.
Yes.
All the labor laws and the working conditions or unions, all of that came out of that 1937 riots, and they were Barbadians. Those that rioted in Barbados, they weren't Trinidadians who came here to riot. They weren't Jamaicans who came here. These were Barbadians that rioted in 1937 to get what they wanted. And I keep reminding them about that. But I believe the socialization is just so strong that and so it's latent inside of them, but it's in their DNA. In their DNA, what's in them, it's to resist and it's to protest. I mean, last year alone, we had 17 protests, Andrew, on the streets.
Yes.
And remember I told you I went out by myself.
By yourself, yes.
And the people said, we want to go out with you now. Okay. And so they contacted me, and we've been, for about 3 years now, we've been having protests. Last year alone, though, we had 17 protests.
Wow.
Okay. And these are varying sizes. And let me tell you something. One of the things that happened was the Mottley administration decided, the same Mottley administration, viewers, who decided that a certain number, thousands of people could not vote. They took away the rights of those people to vote and within the country. This same Mottley government, Andrew, decided that they wanted to shut us up because we were using social media.
Yes.
People like myself.
You are distilling misinformation.
Yes, disinformation, man.
Yes.
So they decided that they did not like it. In fact, they call us anarchists.
Yes.
And all kinds of names from inside the parliament. They were calling us these names.
Yes.
And
are you aware of Jeremy Corbyn?
Yes, Fred Corbyn, yes.
Yeah, I would like to speak to him, but I can't get his email or...
we can definitely arrange
that. Yeah, please, because he was the first person that I came in contact with. I was on TikTok, and then I was on this TikTok with this Trinidadian guy who invited Jeremy Corbyn, and the first time I was hearing him. And I said, this guy has a profound understanding of what is happening, not only in the Caribbean region, but also around the world. But go ahead. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. So Mr. Tucker, what they decided to do, was to silence the Barbadian public.
Yes,
because they saw them going out little by little. The numbers were increasing. I remember when we went out, the largest protest that we had, the night of the protest, I got a call that I'm going to be called to a meeting. Okay, because they want to quiet everything down. Let's go back to being what they call Barbadian.
Yes.
So they wanted to quiet. And so when I refused to go to that meeting because I knew what was going to happen. My thing is to let the people express themselves. And once we are going to do it in a law-abiding way, that we are following the laws of the country, let the people express themselves. Well, here comes the government. They decided that they are going to bring a cybercrime bill.
Yes.
And this cybercrime bill is it is so draconian.
I published a video on it. I don't think I got a lot of traction, but I did have a video. I probably will send you a copy of it.
Well, thank you, Andrew.
I published on that cyber, yeah.
Listen, thank you. I reached out to even Jamaican influencers, and they told me, no, not Mia Mottley. We're not touching that. I'm telling you. Listen to me.
What's his name? Joseph Patterson included? Because he is the third party. The UN. Is it the UN?
No, not him. I'm talking about social media influence.
Yes, I know, but he has a social media platform too.
Yeah. This cybercrime bill, what it basically said was that, and your viewers are going to be shocked at this.
Yes.
If you post anything that caused offense.
Yes.
To anyone.
I read it.
You read it. And
I presented it to the people. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it was true. Okay. Even if it was true, you could go to jail for up to 7 years. Okay.
Yes.
Offense, insult anybody if they feel humiliated, right? If they felt anxiety from whatever you post. So obviously this government meant that through this cybercrime bill, they would remain in power forever.
Wow.
Imagine that we have no no real opposition. We had one person who crossed the floor, Mr. Ravthorne. He was a BLP under the Mia Mottley's government, but then he crossed to form the opposition. And here we are on the outside. We call ourselves the loyal opposition, the people of Barbados. And so we educate the people to say to the people, you are the voice of the opposition. You are the opposition. All 280,000 of you. You are the opposition. And so this is we would go on the show, the Marcia Weekes show, my show, 4 nights a week, and we will tell the people, you are the opposition. Stand up to this government. But they didn't want that, so they came with the cybercrime bill in order to get this, to shut us up. And we had to get on the streets, we had to march, and we actually went to Washington, to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. We took the government there. They were totally shocked. They did not expect that we were going to do that. And at this moment, that bill is stalled.
But she's supported, though. The Jamaican government wants to implement something like that also. But they're doing it more subtly and a little bit more, little by little steps, some little steps that they're taking. So they're beginning to talk about misinformation and disinformation and what it's creating for the government. But they are moving into that direction too. The difference, as you're saying, that the Jamaican people, even though we are ourselves, we are also brainwashed, but we are a little bit more resistant against control than the typical Barbadian. I want to think, though, Marcia, that the more we are cemented into this colonial education system that you have aptly described it as, is the more brainwashed we are and the more subservient and passive we are. When you look at North America, the same thing is happening. Pre-civil war, pre-civil rights in the United States, Black people were more resistant of the power structure in America. Now that many of them have been integrated into the system, they're not challenging as much. Very few are, but the large majority, you're not seeing that leadership capacity and that leadership, that vigorous, strong leadership that you saw that came out of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s era and those who came before him. You're not seeing that anymore because we have been so much integrated. But we are counting down now. The time is running out. What is happening to the Barbadian economy? We know that they, just like Jamaica, that they are with the International Monetary Fund and they have strict, austere, they're under that structural adjustment program. What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I mean, we've never seen the kinds of times that we're seeing in Barbados right now. And for some reason, a lot of people, they're trying, they don't want to speak out. A lot of people, let me just say, nowadays, I think people are speaking out a bit more on social media. Because when you go to the supermarket, you're realizing that you just can't buy the things that you normally would buy. The austerity measures of the IMF, that's reaching us. Our social systems are breaking down. The hospital,
welfare,
a terrible condition. And so we're seeing a lot of that. We're feeling the IMF, the hand of the IMF in the country. We're seeing our leaders, our government, this Mia Mottley government, they're selling out every piece of land.
In Jamaica too.
Hotels are going up. All kinds of anything that brings a burden on the people. We're seeing that there's just a lot of economic burden, and so what that translates in is a lot of crime. So we have a lot of robberies. We have gangs. Are now very, very strong in Barbados, which we never had before. But we believe that it's because of the borrowing. Barbados is very, very indebted to the IMF and to the World Bank. I think we're the most indebted Caribbean country to the IMF. Yes, I mean, in terms of when you look at debt per capita, Barbados is the most indebted country in the Caribbean to the IMF and the World Bank. So we're putting on this front. Our dollar is strong, but then we can't buy food, proper food in the country, and that's one of the reasons that I wrote the book. When we lose our fear.
Yes, let me put it on the screen.
Yeah, when we lose our fear, they lose their power.
Yes.
And I did that book, Andrew, because I want to encourage Barbadians that silence is not going to help us.
Yes.
I think a lot of them are coming into that understanding. And you talked about not just Barbados, but how Jamaica is slipping into that silence, that culture of silence, right?
Yes.
And so this book is for all, people all across the world.
Yes.
That when we lose our fear, they lose their power, and to encourage people to rise up and to speak truth to power.
Absolutely.
Do not believe the lie that they tell us. Oh, nothing is going to happen. As in the case of Barbadians, oh, you're passive. You can't do anything. We realize that a lot of that is part of the propaganda to keep us, committed to the status quo, because that's what fear will do.
Absolutely.
Fear will cause us to prop up their power. But when we lose that fear, that's the time they lose their power.
Thank you so much. Now we for those of you who want to purchase a copy of Miss Marcia's Marcia Weekes book, the title of her book is When We Lose Our Fear, They Lose Their Power, by Marcia Weekes, and it can be patronized from Amazon and perhaps from other book stores.
Mainly just sure. Amazon at the moment. Just Amazon at the moment.
And Amazon.com, please.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, we just have 3 more minutes left. Do you think Mia Mottley's candidacy for the UN as a UN secretary, do you think that is going to not be the case? Because she's going up for a 3rd term. Do you think she senses that she might not win that position?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that with the citizens going to Washington to let the world know that Ms. Mottley is seeking to take our freedom of speech and freedom of expression for us in Barbados, I think that would hurt her a bit. The fact that there were thousands of Barbadians who lost their right. She took their right to vote from them.
Yes.
Those things are going to affect them. There's a court case about that right now.
Yes.
In Barbados. So
yes.
I think that people are wising up to what's going on. Miss Mottley has a propaganda machinery.
Wouldn't it have been better for her to go to the UN than remain a 3rd term in office in Barbados? Because she's going up for a 3rd term.
Yeah, but so some people might think that would be better for her, but I don't think that she would have gotten that UN position.
Yes.
I think there are just too many. When you're talking about freedom of expression and freedom of speech here,
yes,
you're talking about taking the rights of people, taking away their voting right. No other Caribbean prime minister did that. But Mia Mottley did that in Barbados. That's a fact. You could go online and check it out.
Yes.
And I think that I don't think that she would have won at all.
Yes.
She would have gotten that UN position.
Yes.
I think it would have disqualified her because her record home, what she does at home, does not measure up, Andrew, to what she's saying on the world stage.
Yes, you're correct. Thank you so much. I think we have to end here, unfortunately, and we have to do a follow-up interview because we have a lot to talk about, in the Caribbean, and you and I will remain in touch. Thank you so much, Miss Weekes, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on another, program with us, Rumination with Andrew. See you in another one.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you so much. See you in another. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.